So something always matters when it's the photos or that orchestrated. Yeah. I was going to say orchestrated.
Orchestrated? That's a nicer way to put it.
Deliberate. That is
Intentional.
right.
Pose.
that much care goes into the.
Let's do another one. Where the light hit my face. Did you really capture that photo in mid-laugh?
Right, right. More bubbles and champagne.
Yes.
One day, I still won't get the list.
What's that?
Someday we still won't get the list. Yeah. No, I do. I'm here.
No, I do.
Every creature.
I think there's a few.
I'll spend an hour and a half making this face.
Really? What? This guy?
I like had no time to work on the 9:30 or 10 o'clock show. Started at 7:30.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, you know, it's like it's always the next thing. It's like, we
I haven't seen you since December 11th.
Halfway to get some stills. You might have to pour on the other side. Sure. You're easy.
All right. TJ, you want to actually come in now or later? Or? Oh, okay. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Andrew Ransom. I'm president of the Uniform Firefighters Association of Greater New York. I represent 20,000 active and retired New York City firefighters. I'm also joined with James Brosey from the Uniform Fire Officers Association that represents 7,000 active and retired fire officers in New York City. We're also joined by our boards from the UFA and UFOA board. And we're also joined with T.J. McManus, who represents the law firm Sullivan McPain, Block, McGrath, Cafina, and Cavano. They do a lot of work with the victims' compensation bill and compensation for people that are affected by the World Trade Center illnesses and those that have passed. This past weekend, the FDNY has crossed an unimaginable and tragic milestone with retired firefighter Robert Fulco passing from World Trade Center illness. In just the last 2 weeks since the 22nd anniversary of September 11, 2001, we have lost another 2 FDNY members. His passing represents a doubling of the FDNY's losses from the September 11th attacks that day. He is the 343rd member of the FDNY to pass after September 11, 2001, a number that matched the 343 firefighters lost in one day in 2001. We mourn his loss, we honor his memory, and for the 686th time related to 9/11, make a promise to never forget both him and his family's sacrifice. I ask all New Yorkers as well as all Americans to pray for his family and for all the families of those who were lost on 9/11 and all the families of the people that have been lost in the last 22 years and all those currently suffering from cancers and illnesses related to the 9/11 and World Trade Center toxins. In the coming days, we will bury the 343rd member of the FDNY that passed after September 11, 2001, but sadly, he will not be the last. There are thousands of New York City firefighters and other people related to the cleanup that have been diagnosed with cancer, and the number will continue to climb for us without an end in sight. On September 11th, for most people, it's a part of history. For New York City firefighters, it continues to be an ongoing tragedy as we care for our sick and continue to bury our dead. And with that, I'd like to introduce Jim Brose.
Good morning, I'm Jim Brose from the Uniformed Fire Officers Association. Just to reiterate what Andy had said, only 2 weeks ago we were here commemorating 9/11, closing in on a 343rd victim of the 9/11 illnesses. And unfortunately, it seems that we're only celebrating milestones and anniversaries. And this is a daily tragedy that's affecting this department, it's affecting this city, and it's affecting all those people who either operated, responded, or lived south of Canal Street following 9/11. I think about the ways in which we commemorate other tragedies in America, and most of the time we think about the passing of people who lived through tragic events as some loss of firsthand knowledge of what it was like to experience that tragedy. And so we commemorate those people as they die with that knowledge, because that firsthand account of what occurred will no longer be with us. The difference between those tragedies and this one is we're counting the people who are still suffering from the ills of that day, still suffering from either inadequate protection or false narratives about the quality of the air that was down there on 9/11 and the weeks and months that followed. We certainly have accepted the challenge that's been put in front of us. We are certainly willing to care for our people in the process, and we have certainly done this with dignity the entire time. But we can't do it without the support. We can't do it if the narrative fades into the backdrop, and we certainly can't do it if the funding doesn't come to treat these people who knowingly chose to make this sacrifice, who knew they were being misled when they were told that the air quality was good, and continued to go there every day, not only to save people, to recover people so people would have closure in their lives, but also so that New York and the world could move forward. I don't know what else someone could do for another and then be left behind or forgotten or be told that the bill is too high. I'm not so sure that sacrifice could be any more impactful, and I'm not even sure how someone could say this is a budgetary item or something that has to be negotiated. We asked for over $2 billion last year. We got $600 million. People continue to enroll in the program, people continue to get sick, and people continue to die. People continue to die. If we only rely on 9/11 and the milestones, what is the next milestone we will commemorate that will bring this to the forefront? What will be the next thing? What will be the most tragic thing that will allow us to get together under these circumstances where people will bring this to the forefront of someone's consciousness to get the federal government to give this the support we need? I appreciate all of you to continue to turn out for us and continue to get this message out. And I pray for all that have passed, and I pray for all that continue to sick and suffer, and I hope they have the best recovery possible. Thank you.
I'd like to invite TJ McManus up for a few words. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me this morning. It's an honor to stand here with Andy, with Jim, with the UFA board and the UFOA board, to be here for this very important call to action. Jim just put it very correctly and appropriately. This is a United States problem. The World Trade Center Health Program must be fully funded. It must be funded so the first responders can get the health treatment, the continuous monitoring that they need, because this problem, these illnesses are not going away. My firm, Sullivan Papain, has been general counsel for the better part of 40 years for the Firefighters Union, the UFA. To that end, we've represented thousands of first responders who went to 9/11, as Jim and Andy put it, knowing that this could be their death, knowing that the air quality was not what people said it was. We've seen the effects of 9/11 and how it continues today. And the deaths of these two heroes recently, and the fact that we've now reached 343 deaths after 9/11 is a somber reminder that this continues today. People are still suffering. That's why the funds that Jim referenced are so important. What happens if you're an underfunded World Trade Center health program? You do not have the staffing that you need to make the appointments for each first responder to get timely treatment. If first responders are not properly monitored, we're not catching the diseases early enough, it could be a difference between life and death. We've seen this happen in the past, and it's simply unacceptable. That's why we stand with the UFA, the UFA-OA, in demanding that the government properly fund this World Trade Center health program, and that we never forget. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now open the floor to any questions. Yes.
Could you just summarize for us what help is available now for the firefighters that do get sick, and how much more you feel needs to happen in order to have it fully funded for the future?
Right, so the way the bill was structured, we have to continually go back for funding. The World Trade Center Health Program estimates their future funding need, and we make a push in Congress to try to get that funding. The last time we went down there looking for approximately $2.6 billion, we came away with $600 million. That money is not just for New York City firefighters. That is for firefighters, police officers, civilians, construction workers, anyone down there. Now, on our end of it, we've done a great job of getting our members enrolled in the programs and getting them the help that they need. But that doesn't mean the funding won't run out, but that also doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of civilians that haven't enrolled in the program. So if funding were to decrease, they projected out a couple of years. We're fully funded for a few more years. But as the deadlines approach and the funding decreases, they find themselves in a position where they have to start laying off staff. They have to start canceling appointments. They have to stop taking in new people. And every day there's more and more people that are finding out that they've been affected by this coming down with cancers. So we really need to push to get more people to get checked out, but also to get enrolled. And we need to have that funding there to make sure that everyone that was affected by this can get taken care of.
And then is there any type of preventive care program or programs for firefighters in advance of them getting really sick?
Well, it all starts with the testing. And once you get yourself tested, we can take it from there. But these unions have also recently pushed to have a much more robust cleaning of bunker gear. And we're asking our members to look after their exposures. When they go to a fire, we ask them to go back to the firehouse and decontaminate. You know, and that's to worry about ongoing exposures now. So all of our members, we ask them to be vigilant, get tested, and take care of themselves, get tested regularly. But the members that are on the job now, we ask them to learn from the lessons of the past and take care of themselves now. 90% of firefighters, I'm not sure what the percentage of officers on the job today weren't even on for 9/11. And we're seeing some of them getting sick as well. So these are lessons that we learned the hard way, and we're looking to not repeat the same mistakes with the firefighters now, with the exposure to e-bikes and all the new toxins and carcinogens that we're exposed to on a daily basis. So we're not looking to repeat the past, but we're definitely looking to make sure that our members that were affected in the past are taken care of.
Could you talk about the illnesses specifically that Mr. Folco and also EMT passed away from, and also expand on the range of illnesses that the thousands of FDNY members are dealing with today?
Right, I'm not comfortable speaking about someone's personal medical conditions, but what I will say is that there are many lung-based cancers, many neurological-based cancers that they're looking to add now. All sorts of lung disease and cancers, skin cancers. What happens is we've made the connections over the years between thyroid cancers and all sorts of cancers to 9/11. And what happens is we have to keep going back and getting cancers added to the 9/11 bill. So there's an entire whole host of cancers and lung illnesses that affect our members, the number of illnesses keeps growing, and the number of people affected keeps growing. But as this is one of the reasons why that it's necessary to get all the documents related to what the city knew when. It helps, you know, if we find out what they knew at that point in time, it helps us to make the connections to get new cancers added, because certain chemical compounds and certain carcinogens down there, once we can fully prove that they were down there, we can then help make the link between new cancers and new illnesses that we're finding. So this is why even all these years later, there is this push to get documents from what we knew then. Because we all know the air was the air was unsafe and the conditions were unsafe. But having that exact information helps make the bridge between our members that are suffering from new diseases and the fact that it's a direct correlation to what was down there.
Could you talk about maybe like the psychological or emotional effects on your membership and on firefighters passing a milestone like this, and kind of seeing these deaths and these illnesses build up over time?
Well, right now, I believe we're somewhere around 6% of every firefighter that was working that day has now passed either on that day or after that day. For members such as myself and members on this board that have lived through that experience, every time we see someone pass away, we grieve for that family. We do everything we can for them, but we know that we're only we're one bad medical away from being told our time, the clock is ticking, and we've got to take care of ourselves and hopefully survive it. But 3,000 members out of approximately a department that has 16,000 members are currently sick with the World Trade Center cancer. That's a staggering number, and unfortunately, the deaths will continue. There's just no stopping it, but we do have to do what we must to see to it that members get the care that they need to survive this.
2006, how many responded to ground zero in the surrounding area?
I would say in the year after 9/11, there wasn't a single New York City firefighter that wasn't down there, at some point in time during the recovery. On that day, on any given day, there's 2,200 firefighters working. Most of them made their way down there during that day, except for the ones that had to stay in the local areas. But basically, we believe almost everyone on the job was exposed at that time.
And the total size of the department at that time?
16, 17,000. That's firefighters, officers, and EMS as well. The vast majority, were exposed. It was an ongoing effort for 1 year. They were cycling us out in 1 month increments for the recovery effort. So most firefighters made it down there for, a length of time which would create an exposure.
Can we get your response to Commissioner's statement saying that the department will never forget, and it is both our legacy and our promise to never forget and keep fighting for firefighters?
A response to that?
From the Commissioner.
Well, it's a totally appropriate statement. It's a statement that we all feel. That those of us that were there made the promise that day, as did all New Yorkers and all Americans, and we continue to fight, as you see us time and time again going down to Washington to get the funding. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to bring sick members with us for their last trips, and it is a promise that was made by many, and I'm glad that obviously the Fire Commission would make the same promise as we do, to never forget and continue to work for our sick and our dying. The department does a phenomenal job looking after our family members that are sick, the family of the sick, and those that have passed. And I commend the efforts. This is not about the efforts of the fire department. They have always been top notch. We are a family, and we take care of our family. But sometimes, unfortunately, we've got to go down to Washington and remind everyone else that they also made a promise.
And can you just talk more about Robert Fulco as a person, and Maria Hilda Benata as people, and maybe talk about how these numbers, this 343, is more than just a number of people.
Absolutely. I didn't want to go into depth about the personal, personal details of firefighter Fulco. He was hired in 1977, retired in 2002, resided in Brooklyn, and his life and his retirement was cut short due to his time working for this department, working for this city. That story is very, has similarities and differences from everyone that has passed away. We've had friends that have passed in their 40s, recently married, young kids, and some firefighters are grandfathers at this point in time. It's 22 years later. Everyone's life is precious, and when it's cut short, it leaves a huge hole that didn't have to happen. And we do our best to fill it, and we also do our best to make sure that we stop as many of our members from going down that road as possible. When we know it's not possible, just like it's not possible to stop fire-related deaths in New York City. But we do everything we can to keep those numbers down as low as we can. It's a promise we made to the city, now it's a promise we've made to our own members.
And can you just speak in general for the members that are currently sick, knowing that the health fund has to be renewed every couple of years or when money starts to run out or whatever, what kind of pressures does that put on these families?
Well, right now we hope it doesn't put any pressures on them. They know we're going to be down there fighting for them, and we're always out there fighting for the funding in the future. There are times, like right now, when they talk about shutting down the government, and it seems like politicians, just can't seem to get their stuff together to work for the American people. And times like that, I'm sure it causes stress to our family members. But they know we're out there fighting for them. We know we're holding everyone's feet to the fire, and I hope they have the full faith in us to see to it that they will be cared for, because we will do everything we can to make sure it happens. But I would hope that they would not feel the financial pressures of dealing with someone with a fatal illness, because we are getting that job done. They're dealing with enough already, which is why we work so hard to see to it that we can care for them financially. Any more questions?
Can I just ask one more thing?
Sure.
We have, New York City has the top hospitals, the top medical schools in the country. Are there any of the institutions here that are doing studies about these illnesses that your members have had?
Well, the department is constantly doing ongoing studies. Right now, I believe ALS, we're working on study? ALS. Right, we're working on ALS and neurological disorders to link them to 9/11. And Dr. Brazant is also making that presentation. He feels that there have been enough members that have been affected by this, that there is a correlation. Sadly, we believe many members had ALS and neurological disorders, but they had passed from other cancers before that could be proven. But based on symptoms, we feel that these members were affected. Unfortunately, what happens with our members is that many of them, when they die, they don't have a cancer, they have multiple cancers, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And all these symptoms play off of each other. So it makes the work that much harder to pinpoint things down to one cancer, but that's why we continue to have these studies to add cancers to the registry.
Sorry, can you also speak about Miss Renata, who also passed away?
Well, she was an EMT. I don't recall what point in time she retired. I'm not prepared to speak on individuals on their actual passings. Everyone that passed was important, but she passed in the last 2 weeks. The department is averaging 3 or 4 members a month passing from 9/11 related illnesses, between 40 and 50 a year. Just last weekend, we were in Colorado for the IAFF Memorial Service, and that service, because they canceled one during COVID, they would put firefighters on the memorial wall that have passed in the last 2 years, in 2021 and 2022. They added 575 names to the wall for firefighters from the United States and Canada. 70 of those firefighters were New York City firefighters, most of which had died from 9/11 related illnesses. The FDNY represents 3% of the IAFF, which is American Canada. The firefighters, we represent, unfortunately, 15 to 20% of the members that are being put up on the memorial wall. The numbers are just staggering. We go out there and it seems like it's a New York event because there's so many of us out there, but it's actually a national and international event. Any other questions? Thank you.